Hello, and welcome to another episode of Influence and Growth Mastery. Today, we are going to talk about how generative AI impacts careers, both the job seeker and people employed who want to retain employment. I have with me today, Ben Gold. Ben, it's such a pleasure to have you on the show with me today. I know we're going to talk about AI, which is one of my favorite topics. It's so good to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the invitation, and I'm really excited to have this conversation.
Great. I want you, first of all, to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you, and then let's get right on into AI.
Perfect. So I have been in technology for the last 20 years, of which 12 years have been in the HR tech space. The last 5 years, I was working on an AI product. This is before Chat GPT and generative AI, where it was able to crunch 30,000 phone calls and be able to get insights very quickly. And I just found this fascinating. Like, how can you take these massive amounts of data and make it actionable so that companies or individuals can take actions based on this large amount of information? Now, at the beginning of this year, I was let go from the company I was working with, and I started this journey. The first couple of months, I was a job seeker, and I was using this new tool, Chat GPT, to write really personalized cover letters, to prep for my interviews, to really get down deep so I can be personalized. And after doing that for a few months, I realized that the whole process was really unwieldy. I had, 15 different LinkedIn easy applies, and I was on these different job websites. Then I was getting these recruiters, and I was applying to directly. And I said, there's got to be a better way. So I came up with an idea for a startup of putting all of this into one platform and having an API to Chat GPT and basically using personalized AI coaching. Now, over the course of the last several months of building this out, I also began my own consulting practice because I decided I wanted to really meet the people that would benefit from this technology. And over especially the last month or two, I've been really focusing more on the consulting part because I see it's actually shocking to me to see the kinds of conversations I have. Sometimes I'll be talking to job seekers and they've been unemployed for 4 or 5 months and they haven't even created an account with Chat GPT. And that just blows my mind. And I'm just like going when I've done a number of seminars where I will actually say to someone, you've got an upcoming interview. Well, let's take your resume. Let's go take the social media profile of the person you're interviewing with. And the moment that I would do the magic, press the enter button, then all of a sudden there's gasps in the audience. And I feel a little bit like Morpheus giving people the red pill. Like this is what you're up against. And if you don't adjust, if you don't understand this new rule, then it's going to be very difficult to compete because the other people that are filling out applications, they're using this tool. So that's kind of how I got here.
I mean, Chat GPT, Claude, Bard, all of those that are out there are absolutely amazing. I remember the very first time that I learned about Chat GPT and I put in that first prompt, and obviously it was I really did not understand the true meaning of a prompt. I think it was like, create me a Facebook post of something, it was not that big. But when I saw what I got, I was totally amazed at what Chat GPT was. And then, of course, the more I learned about the true prompting, I'll call it the true correct way to prompt, phenomenal. So let's dive in here. Tell me where you would like to start with having this conversation, because Chat GPT and generative AI is so huge. I love it all. But tell me, I'm a geek. I'll tell you, I am a technology geek. I could keep you here all day, honestly. In fact, someday I'll just mention this to you and to my audience, because I've had conversations with multiple people about AI. And because I do think that there's so much that we could talk about. One day, I would like to have, and I'll even ask you, here publicly if this is something that you'd be interested in, because I do think even my audience, I think, would enjoy it. I would love to do a live panel to where my audience could come on. The platform that I use would allow this to happen. I would love to do a live panel where people can come on into the audience on this platform and even ask questions about AI. So I throw that out there as we're having this conversation. I know that's springing this on you, but I would love to do that in the near future, to even talk about artificial intelligence. But I'm going to open the floor to you and let you start this conversation, Ben, because again, we could go anywhere here.
So first of all, Tanya, I would love that. And, that would be a good idea to have a panel with each person. Like, again, I think my specialty is AI in careers. Mm-hmm. You'll probably find other AI thought leaders that have different elements, and it gets people together. You get kind of a really, I love the idea. So when you do it, just let me know. And my hands waved. So what I'll say is, let me start. And sometimes what I find is that certain audiences, there might be people that might be that are not as advanced and not as geeky, because I can be a geek myself. But sometimes if you do that too quickly, it kind of freaks people out. So let's just start from the basics. So AI has been around for decades. When you talk about Google search, if you're talking about Netflix being able to recommend the next movie or Amazon recommending a product, that's all AI in the background, large corporations using it for selling you more stuff. Now, generative AI is a subset of this. And this is something that I like to call it the democratization of AI. And the reason it's a democratization is that suddenly the average person could go onto an app and be able to suddenly realize, whoa, how I can use this to create content and more elements and understand large amounts of data. Just to understand that generative AI is based on an LLM, a large language model, which you mentioned, Bard, Chat GPT, Claude. These are examples of these large models. And they are generally trained with anywhere from 200 billion to a trillion different parameters. That Chat GPT-4 uses over 1 trillion parameters. What it does is it anticipates the next word. So when you say, when she says yesterday love was, then it would say such an easy game to play, and would tell you all about the Beatles because it understands the context. It has that much information. It's able to anticipate. And in some ways you feel like it thinks, but that is the capability. Now, also the second part, which you've also mentioned, this is really important because I have met people who've set up an account with Chat GPT. They ask it a question. They're not impressed. And they say, that doesn't work. So when you think about Chat GPT, there's two components. It's like having a car and walking into it and not understanding how to turn the key and pressing and moving it into drive. The two components of the input that you give to Chat GPT are your prompts and your contextual data. The prompts are going to be the commands. What do you want it to do? And the contextual data is data that you give it. So, for example, Tanya, Chat GPT doesn't know who you are or who I am.
Right.
So if I ask it to tell me something about me and I don't give any information, it's going to be inaccurate. So if I give the example, if I want to say write a cover letter, if you just say write a cover letter, it'll give you a garbage 5 paragraphs that is absolutely gobbledygook because it's just writing out of thin air. Now you say you are a career coach. I am giving you my resume. Find the top 2 items in my resume that resonate with this particular job description and make this a concise cover letter. Here's my resume, copy paste. Here's job description, copy paste. Now you're going to have this output that is going to be very close to what you want. The way I put it is that and this is an example, for a cover letter that usually took 45 minutes to write one if you were to do it the old way, but now you can do it in 5 to 7 minutes. So you can be 5x more efficient. Now I know in your world, the podcaster world, these tools can save you 80 to 90% of your work, because it takes out all of that element of cutting, of deciding what's important, of summarizing. You can do all that with AI. So the question then becomes, well, what does that mean for society? And this is where my specialization is, where I've been focusing on is as somebody that is asking the question, how do I survive this wave? And it's a wave. And I sound like a used car salesman, but I really want to understand generative AI is not going away. It is transforming our society on a personal level and also on a career and work level. And if you don't adopt it, you are going to find yourself unemployed and not sure why. And there are so the way that I look at it is you have industries like finance, real estate, education, healthcare, and we can go into each of these, how they're being impacted. Then you have roles like marketing, sales, HR, programming. All of those are being impacted. And so if you can understand that, like if I can generate a blog post in 2 minutes and somebody else, their whole life is about writing content, then maybe that person who spent their life in education building out content, they will suddenly say, yeah, I can do a better job. And maybe they can than Chat GPT, but if I can do it 90% as good as you, and I can do it for free, and I have a very strict budget if I'm a business owner, then I'm probably going to leverage AI. And I'm not saying that that's the right thing. I'm not making a moral judgment. I'm just saying that's where the world is going to. There are these apps that are out there that are designed to replace humans. And it's important to understand what their capabilities are. Because and I talk to a lot of students, and if you're a student and you're learning graphics design, you should learn about the Canva Magic. I forget what they call it. It's a new product. Yes. What is Magic
it's
Studio?
Magic Write.
Magic Write. It's amazing. And so you've got Canva. Then you've got DALL-E 3. That's only in the last week. Okay, like that's a week ago. Then you have Chat GPT. You take a picture, and my son tested this out. You take a picture, and he took one of his geometry homework, and it not only picks out all the texts, so it was able to say, okay, for problem 1, it would say what the question is, then it would give the answer, and then it would actually look at the picture, and it would say the picture's angles actually are incorrect in the angles they're depicting. Like it actually looked at the drawing and compared it against what's in there, and it was giving a commentary. These lines are actually not really parallel, even though they say they're parallel. I mean, I was like, whoa. So
it's amazing.
And you say to yourself, and so I have this funny thing where if you remember when I met you a couple of weeks ago at that podcasters event, my mind was spinning after you and Larry and Patty were talking about all these tools. And then a couple of days later, my daughter, she has her math tutor come over, and I told her that I'm Dad GPT. Okay. And she says to me, she goes, "What's GPT?" And I showed her for the first time, Chat GPT, and her response to me was, "I'm retiring in 3 years. Will I make it?" Okay. And I said, "I think you will, but I don't think much longer." Okay. We can just talk about like education. You cannot bury your head in the sand, because on one hand, we don't want our kids to lose their critical thinking. And it is important that people understand how to write and how to compose information. But the idea that we're not going to leverage AI in whatever we're doing, that's crazy. That's going to be that's not realistic. And so universities that are trying to stop plagiarism are having to figure out how do we make sure that our kids can still write, but at the same time, you can't just ban Chat GPT and say we've solved it. Okay, no, it's because, and I always say this is like one of the biggest malpractices for a university is what do you do with a junior or senior that's in graphics design or human resources? They need to be taught and they need to be explained very quickly. Go get yourself educated, learn all the tools, because there's new tools every day coming out. Learn what they are, understand them, master them, because when you have an interview, you're going to want to say, well, I understand this tool, this tool, this tool, and generative AI. And that's why you want to hire me, because I'm going to be your most efficient employee. So these are definitely some things that are important to understand as this world is changing.
I have never felt more confident in some of the things that I felt lacking when Chat GPT became my friend. when when I signed up for Chat GPT and I spent that $20 a month, when I gave them my card, it was just like, I just became so confident because the areas that I honestly lacked confidence in, I had it. The tool was there. My confidence level increased. The things that I use for podcasting today, I kid you not, hours I got back in my week, hours. And I call it to this day, my marketing agency. I tell that company, please always serve me. I will pay you every month. You're never going away from me. I am totally attached. I promote them. I feel so confident every month when I go to post, when I go to create now, because it's just, I can't sing his praises enough in the areas where I struggled to do certain things. I no longer struggle. It's right there.
And that is a great story, because you have embraced it. And it's not that I have this becomes really philosophical, because I know there's a lot of people out there that don't like technology. They don't adjust very well. And sometimes it's a really hard thing to do, but it's just important. I try to get that message that there is going to be a big displacement starting now and going for the next 2 to 3 years. The job market is going to look nothing like it ever was. And it's something that none of our generation has ever seen. And this idea of going AI first, and again, I call this AI first in whatever you do, whether you're employed or unemployed, take an hour or 2 hours a day, pay the $20. Because I get people that say, I can't, I'm like, you've been unemployed for 4 months and you can't find the time to even generate a free account. At least do that. But go ahead and spend the $20. And some people say, why would I do that? Because you're going to get the GPT-4 is a better model. And when you need to write cover letters, when you need to write blogs, LinkedIn posts, anything, whether it's for your career, having a 30% better output is worth it. It's a very good return on investment. There's and like for you, it's a no-brainer. For me, it's a no-brainer. And that is really the element here, is that it's important that people understand that this is not, you don't have to become a data scientist. You don't have to become a programmer. You just need to be curious and willing to open up and take some time to understand that. I also recommend, for example, that I have a weekly newsletter which focuses on people who want their careers or focus on careers. There's a bunch of really good newsletters that are daily, that are about really the news in AI, what's going on. I recommend finding as many newsletters in your domain and sign up for them. It doesn't cost you anything. You get this information in your inbox in the morning. I do Google alerts on the subjects that are important for me that have to do with AI and careers and AI and recruiting. I get those daily. I want to know what's happening. What's LinkedIn doing? What are all the other large what's just happening? And you really need to do that. Staying on top of this is work, but it's not something that you need an advanced degree to be able to do.
Well, so much to what you're saying is so many of the newsletters that are put out also include a prompt a day, maybe even 2 prompts a day.
Yeah.
And if you save that, maybe start you a Google Doc that's just titled prompts. Save those. And then
Yeah.
when you need them, when you need that special prompt, go to that Google Doc and copy and paste it over. I mean, you can start you a business with $20 a month, hire out doing things for people. You utilizing the prompts that you're getting from free newsletters. I mean, I tell people, be creative. Think about what things that you can do. If you just got laid off, be creative in the things that you can do, because there are so many tools out there that people are freely giving away in their landing pages. I mean, people are giving free landing pages today that are full of prompts. Austin Armstrong, he is a social media influencer that I follow. I've had him on my podcast before, but multiple times a day, he is sharing free AI tools. And some of them are low cost AI tools, but I mean, there's things out there that deal with AI that people can get at low cost to no cost to run their businesses with.
So I'll give you an example. After doing several webinars, everybody kept saying to me, well, what was that prompt? What was this? What was that? I went and I decided to write this book, Find Your Next Job.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
And what's interesting about this is I wrote the book in 5 days. Now, it's not that you write a book in 5 days. I had 6 months of experience. And when I made the decision to write the book, I was able to, like, I'm not a big fan of, there are people that have written other books about, using Chat GPT that are very superficial. They really didn't know the subject, but they just put a bunch of nonsensical prompts. You create, 100 pages of stuff that's really not that useful. What I did was, because I knew this subject very well, there's really 6 different phases, determining your career objectives, writing a resume, networking, applying to jobs, interviewing, salary negotiations. All of these phases have different prompts and different goals and different elements. And I just to put that in there. And that is a thing that you can learn, and you can basically say, well, what phase am I on? Am I at the point where I'm either reevaluating my career? And some of the people that I've talked to that have been 3-4 months into their search, they've never had an AI analysis. And I'll say, hey, here's your resume. So this is an example. I'll say, give me your resume. Give me something else about you. Do you have a personality test you took and you have the results or anything like that? Stick it as one long text stream and you say, based on this information, give me my top 5 career choices. Rank them as a compatibility, as a percentage, and give me a 2-paragraph description on each of them, why you chose that. And so what used to take me multiple sessions, sometimes a month, to determine a career path, I can do it in an hour session. And it'll say the output will be something like project management, 93%. This is why. Sales leadership, 90%, and marketing leadership, 86%. And it explains all the different things. And that is why, for example, I talked to a number of recruiters, or not recruiters, but career counselors that don't necessarily start with the AI. And I'm like, that should be day one. What I just described should be day one. Then you go to a career counselor. Then you talk to them about other stuff. I've gone to this job fair, this job event where it was 4 hours and Chat GPT was mentioned twice, once for writing cover letters and once, I forget, in some other context. And I'm like, this is crazy. This should be like day one. Get your account.
Main topic.
Day 2. Have you decided what you want to do? Do this. Actually, so that is just for me that, and I think of this from people who are in careers right now, that employers are right now evaluating their efficiency, and they're asking the question, which one of my employees are using generative AI today in what they do? Because of their marketing division that used to have 10, there were a lot of layoffs. Well, one of the things is, and this is really, I hate to say this, but a company a year ago, a large company that had 10 people in marketing, today they can get by with 6 or 7. So 6 or 7 people can generate the content and do everything that those 10 people did last year. Now, what happens to those 3 or 4 people that are laid off? Now you multiply that by thousands of corporations, and then all of a sudden you understand when there's a new job out there for a marketing director and there's 500 applications on LinkedIn, and then you think that's just LinkedIn, easy apply, but that doesn't include the website direct. It doesn't include Indeed and all the other places this job's posted. So there might be 2,000 applications for this one job. And of course, at that point, they can be very selective that they want Superman, make sure that he's got X-ray vision and also can work 24. I mean, my point is that is a ridiculous situation. I've seen that in some different kinds of positions that many years ago you would have a difficult time finding someone to fill it, and now because they've been displaced by generative AI. There's that opposite point where people are struggling to get that employment that they're used to.
Let me ask you this question about corporate companies and the use of AI. I attended a seminar not too long ago that they talked about the risk of AI and lawsuits, discrimination, because the use of AI not covering certain genders or whatever in that. Do you have any experience or any thoughts when it comes to that? How is that taken care of in the corporate entity? I think that's been the one thing that has been my concern for a company, that the content definitely has to be reviewed if you do bring someone in that doesn't quite have a whole lot of experience when it comes to artificial intelligence.
So I think one of the main area, let me kind of talk on different levels, because there's a lot of ethical concerns. So the first one is specifically very narrow to the recruiting industry, of a bias in the AI algorithm in terms of screening resumes. That is where one of the biggest elements here is, because maybe a woman took 2 or 3 years off, and hence when there's gaps in the resume, that it could be discriminatory against a particular sex. And so that's an example where there are ethical considerations about how AI can be used in the screening process, where you have to be respective of diversity and inclusion. Now, that's really the one case. Like, as far as generating content, there's not a problem. Like, if I want to do a blog post or things like that, typically corporations are not that concerned. They're embracing a lot of tools that help analyze data. For example, for selling, there's a lot of tools out there to be able to pinpoint your audience and understand about them so that the sales reps can be more productive.
Or an ad, maybe. What about an ad?
What do you mean by an ad?
So let's say maybe the company in their marketing department was going to do a particular product ad. Right. Is there any concern about some discriminatory issues about an ad, maybe not covering male versus female or an age, one being biased towards a particular age or anything like that?
That, I would say, would be each company by company decision, because when you have the output, so remember that the element of discrimination from the applicant tracking perspective, that's a legal consideration. The output of what you're going to put, that usually is going to be legally reviewed. Like, I would fire the marketing director if the message was interpreted as something being racist or sexist or something like that. So that would be more of a company process.
There's definitely compliance and audits that go around all of that.
And there are ways to automate. And I think that is also another question, is that training the AI to also be aware of any potential situations. I mean, this is where you get into the whole, can a human do it better or can AI do it better?
Right. Right.
And unfortunately, the AI keeps getting smarter and smarter, and
Mm-hmm.
that's just the way it
True.
is. But the other area, and I think this is an interesting one about AI. So, one is certain kinds of industries, financial services and healthcare specifically, have privacy concerns. So,
Mm-hmm.
where you could have an issue is somehow feeding personal information into an AI model, meaning that on one hand, you might want to feed in the kinds of procedures that are done and the outcomes and to understand, okay, well, we had maybe 200 patients that came in with a heart murmur, and these were the different things. And if you fed that into an AI model, it could give you some information about maybe what might have been done better or patterns that a human wouldn't recognize. But you got to be careful that you don't include personally identified information, names and addresses and phone numbers and things like that about the individual. So when we talk about feeding a model information, typically you're going to want to delete any kind of personal identifiable information. And the second thing is that it's not recommended to use a large language model like Chat GPT if you are using private company information in it. So this is proprietary company information that you're passing to, even though technically there's a privacy control. We really don't, once you type into OpenAI a question, technically that some question is on their server. Now, what they do with it, we don't know, but there are authors that are angry about the fact that their books were used to feed this AI model, and they're suing about that, saying, hey, if you used my input for your model, I should get compensated for your output. And then there's that second of privacy of if we truly don't use confidential company information to feed to a large language model unless it has been vetted. And I know that ChatGPT is working to creating specific segmented corporate accounts that offer certain kinds of privacy concerns along this way, because of course they want that business. So that's again where when we're talking about the concerns about where this goes, those are the different levels that companies are concerned about.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense for sure. For sure. So, when it comes to using tools in each of our entrepreneurial
Yeah.
companies, I'm not real sure how I want to frame this question, but I guess my question is more about, is there, so we have Claude, we have Bard, we have all of these various different types of
Mm-hmm.
artificial intelligent tools out there. Are all of those based upon OpenAI, one OpenAI? They're all just building these tools off of that one platform? Is
Okay, I
that
think I know
how
what. Tell
that
me.
all works? I'm not sure if that question makes
I
sense,
think
but
I know.
that's
So let me see if I can summarize. I think what you're asking is, do they use the same data sets to build their AI models? And for example, if ChatGPT uses 1 trillion for its 4.0 model data points, how does that differ from Claude? And how does that differ from Bard? Is that correct? Because these are competitors that are using different data sets to compete against each other.
yes, I think so. And let me tell you what happened, and maybe that will help clarify.
Okay.
Because one time I input some information into Chat GPT. Another time I was using another system. It was an app actually, was using it, but I had never put data into that particular system. But but that system knew data that I had already input over in Chat GPT and gave me the return based upon context I had already put into Chat GPT. And I was like, how, because the prompt that I used was very generic, if you will. And I
Yep.
was like, I don't think it could have given me that information without already knowing what I had input into Chat GPT. And so I thought they must be both using OpenAI in order for this app to have known that particular information. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. The thing that I'm concerned about, a couple of things, even within Chat GPT, it forgets the contextual data. So for
I
example,
thought that. Okay.
you have a chat. So if I have chat one and I tell it all about myself, I say, I'm Ben Gold. I am this amazing person. And I did this, then this. And that's the contextual data. Then I go to a new chat. It forgets everything.
It forgets that. Okay.
So what you're describing is not only did this data transfer from Chat GPT, it went to another. And I would be curious what that tool is, because there are things that your iPhone might have. I mean, granted, I don't know all the invasive different elements that are out there that might have remembered, or we have those incidental situations when you say, gosh, I'm in the mood for a hamburger. And then boom, Wendy's appears right on your phone. You're like, what a coincidence here.
Yeah. Yeah. So Facebook just heard me.
So it's hard for me to give you that answer, not knowing the data sets and things like that. But usually, like I said, that ChatGPT doesn't retain the context. It doesn't retain contextual data, or they say they don't. But again, they do have to. It goes somewhere for the initial analysis.
Right. Okay. I often wondered that question because of that particular situation that happened, but I cannot remember the app. And it wasn't that big a deal. It wasn't anything that was real important. But when that happened, I thought, I wonder if it's all built off of that one OpenAI platform. But okay, that makes a lot of sense. So if I get the whole conversation here, the objective of our conversation, if somebody is not using Chat GPT today, number one, they need to open an account and they need to get started. And the faster they get started, the better off they are. And for those of us that have grandchildren, if they're not using it in school, we probably should be teaching them how to use it ourselves, because we don't want them to be left behind. I think of my own grandchildren. You mentioned math earlier. She was struggling with a couple of math problems not too long ago, and her daddy was trying to help her. And she was texting me, and I made a comment to my husband. I said, Kinley's struggling with her math. And my husband said, tell her to put it in Chat GPT. And I kind of laughed, but then I thought that's a pretty smart idea, to at least help her get started on finding what the answer is, so she can at least, back into to the answer. So yeah, I think that's definitely something that we should all be doing, because I'm talking to the adults, when I'm going live, I'm talking to the adults, and I know she's not being taught Chat GPT in school today. No, in the 6th grade.
And my daughter in the 7th grade, I've taught her, I tell her I'm Dad GPT, and we will do, when she's given a stupid homework assignment, and I define a stupid homework assignment like name the 5 regions or 4 regions in Texas and give 2 state parks in each region and tell us what the specialty is of each park. I'm like, really? You want to wait and you have to read through these 20-page documents to figure that out? I'm like, no. And boom, done. Okay. And I'm like, those are the kinds of things where I'm like, no, that's a waste of time. Like, when am I going to ever use that information?
I was about to say, and when am I going to need that when I'm an adult?
Yeah. So
never.
And she's good. She's got her, she doesn't have a paid account, but she has her own free account. And then when needed, I'll put my paid account, because I'm like, I think yours is not working. Let me give you mine. You can use my phone for a little bit and figure it out. So,
yes.
And I don't have a problem with that, because that's going to be education in the future. And I think in 3 or 4 years, I thought the pandemic changed things, but it didn't. We've gone back to the old way of putting kids inside of a classroom and thinking that you're going to spend 45 minutes listening to one guy talk. Then they go somewhere else, listen to one person talk. And I'm like, no, the world is about to change and education should go with it. There should be changes. So that's just my opinion.
Yeah. She sent me a video the other day and I couldn't respond to her at all because I just said, now Kinley. That was all I said. But she sent me a video. It was a TikTok video and it was talking about how stupid school was because they weren't being taught. And I just was like, now Kinley. But, not being taught useful things, but things like Chat GPT and graphics and those type of things are things that I agree that will help them as they get older. And I have been very anti social media for certain ages of kids. Been very anti because I just don't think that them spending that much time on their phones have been good. But I will tell you, there is a piece of me after going to the conference last week, the Vid Summit, and there were some homeschooled kids that were there. And after seeing the intelligence of those kids and hearing them go up to the mic and ask Mr. Beast and Preston Plays and Nate King and some of those professional YouTubers and those kids asking them some questions, I'm just about to change my mind somewhat about them having some use to creating videos because it was obvious that those kids are using artificial intelligence. They are creating videos. There was a child there. He was, I'm guessing, about 10 years old. He could have been a little bit older, but if so, he wasn't much. My granddaughter's 12, and I think she was older than him. But he gets up to the mic, and he's asking this gentleman, he asked 2 questions. And he asked his first question, and the guy on the stage looked at him, and he went, whoa, that's a deep question, even for me. And he thought for just a minute and he answered his question. And he said, now I have a second question. And he asked that question and he went, whoa, again. And he said, did you come up with these questions yourself? And these 2 questions were about gaming. And he said, yes, I did. And he kind of, the gentleman on the stage, he kind of looked around the audience and he said, Mom, Dad, wherever you are in this audience, find him a coach, get him a copywriter. And then he looked back at the kid and he said, when you're 18 years old, look me up because I'm hiring you. And I mean, and the kid just had this big old smile on his face, and I mean, you could tell, and the kid's questions were like way over my head. But you could tell the kid was extremely smart, but that guy was like, those are questions I don't know that I would have ever thought of. He said, somebody needs to be working with you like right now. And, but yeah, and the crowd just went crazy, clapping for him. And he said, I don't know how much time you spend thinking, but you need to continue that time space that you're spending thinking because you're going somewhere. And so, just listening to and watching those kids that were there, you could tell that there was just something about that. So I drove home thinking, what can I do with my granddaughter on YouTube? What can I encourage her daddy to let her do what she's been wanting to do about making videos? And and she's even told me, Mimi, your reels stink. You need to let me do them for you. So And so you think about things like that when they have that desire and they're not getting it in school. I I've discouraged it. And now I'm thinking maybe I need to let off the pedal a little bit. So I don't
It's
know. There's that balance. And where
that,
do you,
that's a hard one that is beyond the scope here, because as a
yeah,
parent, you say, do you shield them? Do you let them see it?
yeah,
My daughter has her TikTok account and she's got a lot of followers. And I said, hey, can your dear old dad come on your thing? And he goes, no, Dad, you'd ruin all of my entire, I'm not putting you
yeah.
on my TikTok. So anyway,
You could ruin her algorithm.
yeah. Well, she said that all my friends would run away, like, what? Your dad? That's the worst thing you could ever. Why would you put your dad on it? So anyway, I've learned that. I'm going, I know you still love me, but it is what it is. I will say one of the things that sounds like a fantastic conference. I'm a Mr. Beast fan. I like to look at his videos. So that
It's
sounds like you must
amazing.
have had just an amazing time over there listening to these guys.
Yeah, it's amazing what you learn about AI and algorithms, and it is amazing. But anyway, so tell my audience, Ben, where they can locate you, because what you do is very impactful. Whether they're looking to you for consulting, coaching, just to follow you, where can they locate you?
It's bengoldai.com. No,
bengold.ai.com.
bengoldai.com.
Okay.
So it's just Ben Gold and the letters AI then .com. So it's in the .com, not the .ai. So
Yes, got it. And we will put that in the show notes. So that will be there and they can just click on that. But it has been
thank you.
Been a pleasure to talk AI with you. And again, we put that panel together. I definitely want you to be a part of that.
I look forward to it. This was a really fun conversation, and I absolutely am excited to work with you. And I know this won't be our last conversation. So you take care, Tanya. Okay.
Yes, thank you. So hang on just a minute. And for those of you that are interested and want to reach out to Ben, please do so. And leave us your golden nuggets in the comments. And if you have any questions, leave those in the comments. If you've not already subscribed to your favorite listening channel, please do that. And then also subscribe to the YouTube channel. And until the next episode, we will see you again soon. Thank you for listening. Bye.